They really tried to sell that on the ads I saw for NFL weekend, like spooky weekend, like terrifying game matchups. I wasn't really buying it. I don't know how that played out.
Yeah.
Game day.
Uh, some of the matchups were spooky for sure in terms of the point differential. And definitely a big spook of all, I guess, as we jump into our week preview or our weekend recap, is the New York Jets pulling off the scariest move of the weekend and shocking and frightening Bengals fans who were riding so high last week after a convincing blowout of the Ravens, number one seed in the AFC. They go and they lose in New York to the woeful Jets. Mike White, that's a real NFL quarterback,
If you
not
say
a
so.
made up name. His first NFL start, throws for over 400 yards, catches a 2-point conversion on the Philly special that they recreated, and New York has the game of their lives to beat the Cincinnati Bengals, the ultimate trap game, and bettors loaded up on Cincinnati this week in all sorts of action. So that is a big one. As I mentioned last week, for all of the bookmakers to make all of their money back is a big one for them this week. Yeah, so scary times. I think the Buccaneers and the Chargers are also experiencing some fright. The Chargers actually just losing now to the Patriots at home as of like 2 minutes ago. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers getting a late touchdown. They are now trying to stop the Saints, who are driving just down 1 point here late in the game. So it could be a couple of upsets to cap off the afternoon slate in the NFL. But a couple other games that stood out earlier in the day. The Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans have a showdown to remember for first in the AFC South. And this game goes to overtime somehow after Carson Wentz throws just a brutal interception, avoiding getting sacked for the safety, gets caught, returned for a touchdown. Tennessee goes up 7. Then Carson Wentz throws this bomb, gets called for pass interference at the 1 yard line. The Colts punch it in, send it to overtime. But in the end, they can't come through. And the Titans, 3 really signature wins now in a row. And their reward for that is getting to go and play the Los Angeles Rams next week. So a really brutal schedule in back-to-back weeks for Tennessee, but 3 big wins. And now they are firmly in the driver's seat in the AFC South. Another AFC South team that had not the best afternoon, but interesting on the gambling side is the Houston Texans, who are down 38-0 going into the fourth quarter and managed to cover a 16.5-point spread. So for all Houston bettors who thought that line was too big, an unbelievable cover to save your day if you lost a ton of money on Cincinnati. That was a big one for them. And that one ends up winning out mostly for both sides because a lot of people had the Rams and teases or money line parlays, etc. But the Houston Texans still managed to cover that massive spread somehow, getting it late. Really tough beat if you were Rams better on the spread, but I don't know if we had a ton of those because most people were moving that line in their favor. Another team that got blown out and did not cover, and this is really like a dagger in the heart game on their season, is the Detroit Lions, who now drop to 0-8. They get smashed by Philadelphia, who's not a great team, 44-6. They could not stop Jalen Hurts. They couldn't stop anyone. And that's just, it's a tough loss for them. Everyone pegged them as this is the game they were going to win to really try and avoid getting closer and closer to that 0-17 season, which has never been done. But the Lions have gone 0-16 before. So this is an organization that has felt a lot of pain, and they continue to feel it this week. And yeah, they're really going to need to regroup going forward because it's not going to get much easier than having an opportunity at home to beat the Eagles. And yeah, just another loss to the books. Just a brutal Halloween weekend for the Lions. Last game we have here from the early slate, that was a big one. The Pittsburgh Steelers, a 15-10 kind of Big Ten style win over the Cleveland Browns as they jumped them in the standings. And they did both teams did their best to throw this game away, and both the defenses were locked in for the majority of the game. The Steelers tried to run a fake field goal and have their kicker throw, and he got lit up in a play that was kind of questionable. And in the end, the Browns, who looked to have such a great start to their season, are now 4-4, and they're behind every other team in this division. And it's pretty shocking that, this AFC North, they're just taking a big bite out of each other. We saw that with the Bengals losing to the Jets today, and it's going to be a lot now for Cleveland to climb back. I have them lined up as one of my games to look forward to next week. They're playing Cincinnati, so both teams coming off of bad losses, trying to get back with a big divisional win, but that it should be a bloodbath between these two teams coming up. And then my last preview game for next week, I have the Titans, the Rams, the Bengals, the Browns, and then I have Green Bay and Kansas City. Obviously, the Chiefs not having the season that they'd like to be having. They still have a big game tomorrow against the New York Giants, which they should win. But if they win that, then they do have some momentum riding in to take on the red-hot Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers, who beat the Arizona Cardinals in a big win for them on Thursday, and they'll have a ton of rest going into that one. So can't wait to preview that one. Should be a fun one. And finish up my football fan cave here with my top fantasy performer. I was on the opposite side of this guy's week. Really painful. Another fantasy loss in the books for me. Michael Carter, the running back from the New York Jets. Obviously a big win for them and a big day. 32.2 fantasy points. Not going to be the biggest fantasy point output of the day, but a great value pickup because he's been average throughout the season. And this was an explosion that if you had him on your team, that most likely is leading to a win for you this week. So shout out to Michael Carter. And that'll be it for my football fan cave.